We are now live.
We are now live.
All right, this is my first ever live video. Never done one before. We are putting on a show called Fashion Splash, which is happening on the 25th of February. And we are gathering designers together. We've been doing it for the last 3 weeks. We're up to, I think, 8 designers now, so we're getting our group together. We have hair and makeup being done by Erin Bradley in makeup, which thank you very much, Erin, if you're out there. She's going to be doing all the behind the scenes, getting everybody ready. We have a new designer. Oh, sorry, not a new designer. We have an
I've been around for a while.
We have an experienced designer here, Batfish Studios,
Yes.
Which was in our show in 2019.
2020. Because remember, it was right at the end of February in 2020.
Oh, yes.
And then the world came to an end. Yes, as we know it.
The world shut down.
That's
That
right.
is true.
Yeah.
But we snuck in the show just down at Ogden Point in that big old concrete warehouse. And it worked out pretty good. So back 2 years later, we're back. We're going to do it again. This time in a very warm, comfortable venue, Quench. We won't have to worry about heat or bathrooms. They have all that. It's actually a beautiful venue.
So I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Tracey Yarrell, and this is Batfish Studio, and I'm an eco-designer. And what that means is that I work with textiles and clothing that otherwise would go into the landfill. And my job as a designer is to transform that into something brand new, wearable art, and save it from going into the landfill. So I try to showcase my stuff through fashion shows. I'm also in local markets here in Victoria, but that's my goal, is to show people through example. Don't throw it away. Don't make it go into the landfills. Textiles are textiles. Once they're created, they can be made and used into all kinds of translations. So that's my job as a designer, and I love it.
Wow, so you're right now. I'm in our studio, and I'm surrounded by all this material. Looks very lacy. So all this is taking off of other clothing. Is that where you?
A couple of places. So because I'm an eco-designer, what happens is people will say, "Oh, my grandmother died. She was a great sewer. She has this trunk of fabric. Can I give it to you? Would you like to buy some stuff?" There's second-hand stores. There's clothing. So basically, any textiles that have been created, I can make use of. So of course, I collect things, because you do when you make things. And so I've got, because of this project, which is very boho styled collection, there's a lot of lace and trim. So what I've done is I've collected everything up and put it in front, and as I work through my designs, I'm utilizing it.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is.
But why? So why do you do it? Why don't you just go buy the material? So why do you do it this way?
Because fabric waste is one of the biggest polluters on the planet to date. It's second only to oil. And so fabric waste is terrible around the world. A lot of times we give our clothing to Goodwill and to secondhand stores, and it gets sent onto barges to third world countries, where again it goes through a market series, but ultimately a lot of it is burned, and that goes into their atmosphere there and pollutes what's going on over there. So the more that we can be aware that textiles can be used and reused, and come with it at that frame of mind, the better. So mending is another big thing. Buying vintage clothes is another big thing. And looking at the clothing that you have in your closet, and if you don't want it anymore, see what else you can do with it. It can be made into all kinds of things. I work with dead stock. I work with fabrics from the upholstery industry, secondhand clothing, just you name it. Once textiles are invented, once it's out there and been produced, it's not just going to go away. It won't disintegrate, unless of course it's a natural fiber. But that's a whole other conversation.
So you're saying my closet with my vintage clothing from the 80s is worth something?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, it's a good thing I haven't thrown it out.
There you go.
I'll tell my wife when I get home.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you been doing this for?
Well, I as a designer have been a designer, and I'm very grateful for this all of my life. So
Wow.
I was, right out of school, I worked on Expo 86. I was one of the design teams for the Vintage Car Show in Expo 86, and I have been employed as a designer all my life. But about 10 years ago, when I was working as the marketing director at the city of Saanich, I hit that wall, and it had to do with the birth of my little granddaughter, and there was a lot of exposure about fabric waste and how it was really getting to be a problem. My mom was a fashion designer, so textiles had always played a really important part in my life, and I thought, I want to do something that's going to possibly be a contribution to making a difference in this. And so I made a big change in my life. I left that job, I started a business, and that's what I'm doing today. And I love it, and it feels very much like I am making a difference.
Okay, so the other question I get a lot from the designers, we have a few new designers in the show. Some of them have only been designing for 2 years, and then we have ones like you that have been designing for a long time. But I always get the question, like, can I make a living doing this? Can I make a living designing clothes? I guess that's the question.
Mm-hmm. I think right now is a really opportunistic time because people are really becoming aware that, textile waste is a big deal. There's a lot more focus on purchasing vintage clothing. There's a lot more interest in not getting rid of textiles. So I think that right now people can work towards, making a living at working with upcycled and repurposed textiles and clothing. Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. So now for the big reveal. Do you? I know you've been working on getting ready. You only have like less than 25. No, you have over 25 days to get ready for the show.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that might be made or half made or started?
I do. So as a designer, I have always worked from designs that are in my head that then make it to a page, and then from this I then make them into a reality. So all through my life as a designer, I've always worked to spec. So this is part of my line. I usually don't show stuff until it goes down the runway, but this will make an exception.
Sneak peek,
yes.
all right, but it's live, so when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. So this is one of the illustrations that I made for this upcoming show. So here is. Move this over.
Oh, maybe I can. Yeah. I can take that camera and move it.
So.
Here we go.
Yeah. So you might want to back it up a little. So this is a garment that is a boho piece. It just needs to be finished, but basically it's working with a base that was upcycled and repurposed, and of course this is all put on here as well, and it comes from, there's the original
and
sketch.
There's the original sketch.
Yeah.
Looks like the sketch.
There you go.
Except for on the sketch, you can really feel this. This is all embroidered material. This is
really
beautiful.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Huh.
So I love it because when I do a collection like this, a lot of traditionally designers will do a design like this and then they go out and they purchase their textiles. But for someone like myself who's an eco designer, what I do is I go through the stock that I have of textiles to see what would possibly work for it. So it takes me a little bit longer. It's a lot more of a challenge, but that's what makes it fun. That's what I love doing. So yeah, that's how it works.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us a sneak peek.
Thank you.
This is going to be it for our first live designer interview. We'll have to come up with a name for all these. I hope to do a few more. Thanks for listening and tuning in.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a cool studio, by the way.
It is a cool studio. I spend half my life here.
There, I couldn't find the right button. That's okay. I now know where the button's up on the far left.